Stock surge after Trump hints at peace talks with Iran and an end to the war. Mid-caps lead the charge, with industrials, utilities and IT being the prominent sector gainers.
ICICI Prudential Life Insurance delivers a surprise beat in Q4, riding on strong protection business, even as savings inflows take a knock. This ups optimism on upcoming earnings of life insurers, even as a bonus from LIC aids sentiment.
Chhattisgarh orders an inquiry into the boiler blast at Vedanta's power unit that led to 14 deaths and injuries to several others. Group chairman Anil Agarwal promises to get to the bottom of the matter while expressing deep regret.
After sexual harassment incidents at TCS in Nashik, which its CEO will now head a probe into the rumors swirl about such occurrences at other IT firms. NASSCOM and industry majors Infosys and Tech Mahindra strongly deny such claims.
Hello and welcome to Halftime Report live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studio. I'm Ekta Batra, with me Sonal Bhutra as well as Vinny Motiwala. Well, it is turning out to be a session where we are seeing strength across the screen today. So we have the Nifty, which is up around a cool 380 odd points. We have the mid-cap index, which is up around 2.2% at this point in time as well. In fact, talking about the broader markets have seen a good amount of recovery from the lows that they hit on the 2nd of April as well as on the 27th of March, respectively, in terms of the micro caps. So just a quick word with regards to that. The small cap index is now up around 1.2% since the start of the West Asia conflict and has recovered around 9.2% from its April 2nd closing lows. Similarly, the mid-cap index is up around 3% from the start of the conflict and has risen around 13% from the 27th of March low. That is the micro-cap index, not the mid-cap, but the micro-caps. Just a quick word with regards to specific stocks as well within this entire micro-cap/small-cap space. There are a lot of stocks which have risen from the start of the West Asia conflict and have really outperformed what you've seen in terms of the market. So Quality Power up 27.7%, MTAR Tech up around 26%, Office, which is up around 25%, HG Infra, which is up around 17%, TD Power Systems up around 6%, and even something like an Astra Micro, which has rallied around 5%. So it's not all gloom and doom. There is a recovery which is taking place in terms of the small caps and the micro caps, and specific stocks are seeing a good amount of traction.
Absolutely. There are a couple of pockets which are doing really well. And if we talk about pockets, real estate is definitely one of them. And that is something we'll be tracking very closely, Vinny.
Absolutely. We'll be tracking that very closely as well. So all in all, markets today are in the green. But first, let's talk about what's on the show for y'all as well. And in our What's Trending segment, we will discuss the uptick in IT sector as well as Wipro Q4 FY26 earning expectations. And this is going to be with Bhavan Shah of Sameeksha Capital. We'll also talk about a movers and shakers segment where we'll put the center stage on Dr. Reddy's, LG Electronics and Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. In a commodity segment, we'll have Sriram Krishnan of NSE who will join in, and we'll talk about the launches that has come in for the Brent crude futures contract as well. But we do have the WPI data that's come in for the month of March. March WPI inflation, like you can see at the bottom of your screens, 3.88% versus 2.13%. So an increase that has come in there on a month-on-month basis, and this was expected as well.
We have been talking
about this as well, right? The impact clearly starts seeing of the inflation comes in from the wholesale side as well. We'll wait out for more details. As of now, 3.88 is the WPI inflation number. Break up furthermore on that front as well.
Okay, all right. So that is the big number, of course, the increase in crude oil prices, the gas prices. That is something which has been impacting this particular data. As Vinny said, we need more details on what the underlying is, but definitely it is something that we need to take note of for the WPI number, which has increased sharply on a month-on-month basis.
We'll be waiting for the core WPI data as well, because that will give you a sense in terms of how exactly the core data is trending. That is something that, the RBI alluded to in terms of giving estimates, not for the WPI, but for the CPI, core CPI data. Remember, for the CPI data, it was the 14th consecutive month where the CPI inflation for the month of March remained below the 4% target. But for the March WPI, maybe we can get some estimates at around 3.88% is where it's coming at. The food inflation is unchanged at 1.85%.
Okay, all right, take that point. With that, we'll do one thing. We'll go across to Vivek now. He's here to take us through the stocks that are moving around in trade. Vivek, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Started off strong and we're holding on to those gains. Advance decline ratio skewed majorly in favor of the advances. Quite a lot of stocks that we can allude to today, especially on order wins. Look at a name like RailTel, over 560 crores worth of orders. That and a few other infra names getting order wins. Stocks doing very well. MTAR Tech, the company last week alluded to the large opportunity in nuclear within the domestic market, but one of the company's key clients, where it gets more than 60% of its order book from, that particular company too has alluded to a very large order win. ICICI Prudential Life, margin surprised positively. The entire realty pack has recovered quite sharply, so names like Lodha, Suntech, Prestige, all of these names doing very well in the session. And keep an eye out for Naukri or InfoEdge, that particular name, a reorganization as far as the education and real estate business verticals are concerned. So that particular stock too seeing some buying traction. On the other hand, ICICI Prudential AMC, the core numbers came in slightly muted versus estimates, down almost 5%. Industar, a double downgrade coming in from Jefferies. That particular stock is at the day's lowest point, almost 3% lower. Oil India, the top laggard as far as the mid-cap index is concerned, as oil prices fall significantly. And Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, again, the nod not coming to something that has led to a bit of a sell-off.
Okay, all right, Vivek. Thanks very much for that. The fuel and power inflation has come in at over 1% versus a deflation on a month-on-month basis. So that was expected. And all of the other key details which are flashing on your screen, like the food inflation, which is unchanged at around 1.85%. I think we have Lata with us to take us through more of the details with regards to the WPI data for the month of March, which is coming at 3.8%. Lata, over to you. What was the street anticipating when it came to this piece of information?
Well, it was expected to come closer to 3%, but this is a significant jump at 3.88. We must remember that we have had negative WPI inflation for a significant period in the past 1 year. As well, even when we had a positive, it was, in single digits. It was like 1% and 2%. But this jump, while it was expected, I think it's come in a little more than the CNBC-TV18 poll as well. The jump is more in WPI because it doesn't get rationed out. While the government can stop consumer price inflation by taking it on the fisc, like it did in petrol and diesel, a lot of raw material used by industry, and WPI has a smaller proportion of food and a much larger proportion of fuel and manufacturing. There, as Sonal will tell you, there is so much of petrochemical products that are used, sulfur, ammonia, things that we don't get into the CPI at all, impacting a lot of manufacturing products. And that is why, not just now, but you are going to see the impact of WPI more so in the days to come. We just had Manisha telling us about a whole lot of metal prices that are still higher, even though crude has fallen. A lot of production, gas-based production in many countries would be impacted. That also reduces the total amount of the total amount of output of several manufactured products, and we will see this becoming a problem. Now, there is one way of looking at it positively, that whenever you have a higher WPI, the nominal GDP goes up. Because when the GDP is put together, there is an actual amount of goods and services plus the rise in prices. That rise in prices is only 40% CPI. It's about 60% WPI prices. Because you're counting manufacturing, they all pay wholesale prices. And therefore, you may have a double-digit nominal GDP this time, not for the right reasons. It's because prices are rising. And to that extent, fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP will all not look too bad because the numerator rises. And that might be a small help, but we should be prepared for worse WPI numbers.
So, Lata, that is exactly my question. Now, since this is because of wholesale prices increasing and the input is increasing, not so much output, and that's ultimately increasing pricing of the output as well. So, even if nominal GDP increases, that's not such a big positive, right? Or what do you
I would think it's not a very big positive because, if you look at, all of you are looking at corporates and their P&Ls and balance sheets. Now, the raw material prices have gone up. What GDP captures is the value add. That is, raw material material prices subtracted from the final prices, you will find that in most places, companies are not able to pass on the entire raw material price to the end prices. So you will have a higher revenue than analysts forecast, say, 1 year ago. But you will not have a higher EBITDA. Because
it's not volume led, it is pricing led.
Yeah, it is pricing led, and it is already consumed by the raw material prices. So it won't be EBITDA led, it won't be margin led, and that can have a negative impact on GDP.
Okay,
the rise in nominal GDP is not going to mean a rise in real GDP.
Right, Lata, just before we let you go, you said that WPI is set to get worse. What is the estimates that we could probably expect in the next few months?
Well, actually, I haven't done a poll on the full year because most people don't forecast WPI. CPI is the policy anchor. The Reserve Bank MPC has a mandate from the law to monitor only CPI. So I don't have a poll for the full year number. But chances are after a rise, it is going to taper down. One, because as the IMF announced yesterday, there are recessionary conditions expected. Yeah. And when demand nullifies, you're going to see a fall in the ability to price higher. And also because there is a very big deflationary force in China. China is still flooding the market. So it's not a runaway WPI that you're expecting. It's just higher than what we were prepared for. And we have a very low base. We have a negative base for most of calendar 2025. Which might result in a higher number. But I don't have we have to do the poll to get it.
Okay, take that point. Thank you so much for your insights on this number, Lata. So that's about the WPI number for the month of March, where it has come in higher on a month-on-month basis. With that, we'll slip into a short break. Up next in our What's Trending segment, we'll discuss the uptick in the IT space as well as Wipro, and the earning expectation for quarter 4 of FY26 with Bhavin Asia of Samiksha Capital. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Halftime Report. Well, the markets continue to do well, closer to that 400-point uptick on the Nifty as we speak. Nifty Realty is the top gainer. In fact, all the sectoral indices are in the green today. We do have Nifty Realty, as I said, as the top gainer, 2.6% higher, followed by Nifty Media, which is up around 2.5%. Nifty Small Cap is not far behind with a gain of around 2.5%. And we do have the IT pack, which continues to do well, so 2.5% higher there as well. We'll discuss that in greater detail in just a bit. But talking about some broader market movers, and that is something that you should keep an eye out on. We have AG Infra, which is up around 16%. Valor Estate is up around 13%. So all these stocks are on our radar now. But as we said, IT is our trending segment. This is our What's Trending segment. We are tracking the sharp rebound in IT stocks. The IT index is up 8% since April, even though it is down around 23% over the last 1 year. So what's driving the turnaround? We have Rima, who's joining us now to break down the key tailwinds behind the moves. What has the earnings been so far? We'll then, of course, toss it across to Bhavin Shah for a few more questions. Rima, take it away.
Thanks so much for that. You know, the sentiment going into the IT earnings season till March was so bearish. And even now, after this 8% rebound, the Nifty IT index is still down 23% in the last 1 year. Now, there was an interesting note from BNP Paribas a couple of days back. They said the Nifty IT's underperformance versus the Nasdaq 100 reach historical trough levels. It goes back all the way to 2003, barring the COVID period, right? So that is one. Secondly, even the kind of FII and DII selling, both in the Indian IT sector. The FII ownership in IT names came down to as low as 6% as of March 2026. And even the DII ownership in IT names stood at 6.6% as of March 2026, which compared with the 14% about 4 years back in March of 2024. What's also been providing a lot of buffer is the rupee depreciation. The rupee has depreciated sharply, and it will reflect in the company's margins, or it provides that cushion, that invisible cushion on the way down. Valuations too have contracted very sharply. So, TCS valuations are at 15.5 times. It's halved compared to the post-COVID highs and much lower than even the pre-COVID multiples. The average used to be 22 times for TCS. It used to be 18-20 times for Infosys, and now Infy trading at about 16.5 times. So what analysts are saying is that at least for now, there is some near-term, certainty it's not that earnings downgrades are taking place in a massive scale for FY27. For FY27, we're still looking at a single-digit kind of an earnings growth. Yes, there is long-term uncertainty, but at least in the near term, there is some amount of certainty. What to watch? Wipro results will be tomorrow. Here, the buyback, the capital allocation will be important, and their Q1 FY27 guidance will be watched, though it's not expected to be a good one. Wipro's also been making a lot of acquisitions, so that Harman DTS acquisition will drive growth in the current quarter. If you remember, just earlier this month, the company secured a $1 billion 8-year deal with Olam, and as a part of it, they said they will be acquiring Mindsprint for $375 million. And today, the company made another small tuck-in acquisition. They will be acquiring select customer contracts of Alpha Net Consulting for about $70 million. Back to you.
Okay, Rima, thank you so much for that. But to take this discussion forward, now we have Bhavin Esha, founder, CIO and CEO at Samiksha Capital, to discuss all of this. Bhavin, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Let's start by talking about some of the valuations that Rima just highlighted as well, right? Do you think after that 23% fall that we've seen in the index, 8% rise in April so far, are we at a phase where we could see an up move? Valuations had become cheaper, but is this the time on the fundamental front, maybe to watch out for these big names?
We have been looking at them, and clearly valuations by historical standards had become very attractive. They could still be considered reasonably okay. But I think the confidence that one has to develop, or conviction one has to develop, is in what kind of growth and how much, and that is where I think the concerns continue to be there.
Okay, all right. Bhavin, hi. Thank you very much for joining in. Just wanted to narrow down a little bit on Wipro. It comes out with its earnings tomorrow. The street is hoping for maybe more of an announcement with regards to maybe a buyback. What is your sense in terms of all of the announcements that they've made, the latest acquisition that they've announced, as well as the deal with Olam? And what are you expecting tomorrow?
I mean, I don't have any specific expectations per se, but yeah, buyback, would be good, because I think it's a slightly better way to distribute. I've stated before that Indian government has made it very difficult for companies to return cash and create a sort of opposite of incentive for returning cash. And that's why we are seeing, companies making large deals, and doing acquisitions. Now, as far as acquisition by Wipro, I think the history of those acquisitions that Wipro has done hasn't been as rewarding as one would have liked to see. So I think, we'll have to see how this one plays out as well. Whether it kind of changes the course for the company, which has been a struggle for a long time.
So Bhavin, coming back to the valuation point again across the space, because you said, yes, valuations are attractive, but there's still some fundamental issues that you are seeing. So it is still not a fundamental buy, but a valuation buy, according to you. What are some of the risks that you are still seeing in the sector? Is it still the AI story? Is it still the growth concern? What makes you still a little wary of buying into it for fundamental purposes?
I think there are multiple issues. First, there is, with all that has been happening in the global scene, the US economic growth story probably is a little punctured as well for the time being. We have to see how, the ability to lower interest rates, and I think, broadly that all the factors that US has been dealing with, tariffs, not tariffs, this Iran war, crude oil, price increases, its impact on the consumer demand, all that. Perhaps there is a little bit more uncertainty with respect to the US economy than one would have liked to see. So that's a starting point. Then we were already in a post-COVID era of lower growth for IT services. IT services trend growth has been declining, for last, let's call it, maybe almost 2 decades. COVID gave a bump, and that bump is over, and now we go back to that, slowing growth period coming forward. And then you bring in the whole issue of productivity boost led by the latest developments in AI. I think so, there is, all this is not fully understood, perhaps, by most of us, and so it becomes difficult to quantify and have a very strong confidence on forward growth for these companies, what sort of growth. And so I think, we will keep listening to companies, what they have to say. I mean, Accenture already reported, and I think market didn't like what they had to say about growth. So I think that's one of the important early indications we already had on the sector. So yeah, I think let's see what comes out in terms of the growth outlook. Obviously, the Indian IT companies benefit tremendously with such a sharp depreciation of rupee, and so that factor might have played also some role in recent uptick. But overall, it's a very mixed bag, I would say.
Okay, it's a bit of a mixed bag. So, like you pointed out, right, Accenture, what they said in terms of guidance, the street didn't like it. Will that be the case also? If there is a miss that comes in terms of maybe the guidance or the commentary that they've given, then maybe again we could see a bit of a derating coming in for IT in Q4 specifically.
The risk is definitely there. The risk is definitely there.
Okay.
All right. Bhavin, from a longer standpoint, we've reached this trough where the institutional holding in IT is the lowest that we've seen. We're seeing this entire valuation gap also, which has taken place. But do you think that after the dust settles with, say, the geopolitical uncertainty and the markets start sort of, consolidating or maybe moving without the geopolitical risk, do you think that AI risk will probably come back and get factored in? Or do you think that there could be some amount of resilience in the IT space and maybe this is a good time to sort of accumulate?
I think AI is an ongoing, ongoing risk. I don't know whether, from the levels of improvement we've already seen, will there be more? There is definitely that potential. And, clearly the improvement or the upgrades that came in the AI tools in the month of November, December were, surprised most people. Can there be more surprises in future? I don't know. I mean, I think that's definitely, looming large, so to speak. And I think that also will keep a bit of a upper lid on the valuations. And most importantly, when you put it all together, what's the growth outlook? As I said, trend growth was already going down even without AI. So yeah, it is going to be difficult to construct a very very bullish case for IT, especially large cap IT. You could have some mid-sized companies enjoying the advantage of their size and maybe grabbing some business from larger companies, and as a result being able to deliver healthy growth rates. That is still possible.
Okay, so you're still comparatively positive on mid-caps versus large-cap IT. You indicated at the start that government has made it more difficult to return cash back to shareholders or reward them in any way. That has been one of the factors why investors have liked IT companies before. Do you think for growth now, acquisitions the way Wipro has made it or other companies have made it could be the next growth lever for these companies, considering that it is not coming organically?
Companies will be definitely tempted to do that. Whether or not they can generate value from acquisition will always, the history of acquisitions is broadly, a lot of academics have done, academicians have done research on acquisitions, and generally very few acquisitions actually end up delivering value. So, but yeah, so I mean, that is the chances are, as you say, that more money will be spent on acquisitions rather than distributing cash, because it's if ultimately the tax rates on dividends and buybacks is just too high.
Okay. All right, Bhavin. We're going to leave it on that note. It's always a pleasure listening into your views. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking with us and giving us your perspective on the entire IT space, which in fact is one of the top sectoral gainers today. So good going for the IT index. We'll take a short break, but Ashish Kyal of Wave Strategy will be joining in with some of his trading calls. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Halftime Report on CNBC-TV18. As of now, the Nifty 24,200 continues to hold on to that level. Almost near the day's highest point was what the Nifty is trading at, 1.6% gains for the Nifty 50. Obviously, advance-decline ratio clearly in the favor of advances versus declines in today's trading session. But let's also bring on board Ashish Kyal, CMT author, Wave Strategy Advisors, joining us now to talk to us about the technicals for the market. What are the levels that we should be keeping an eye out on? Ashish, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Today, Nifty is managing to hold on to the 24,200 level, comfortably above that. From here on, the levels that we're keeping an eye out on, important support and resistance levels.
Hi, Vinny. Afternoon to you and also to all the viewers. See, we talked about a few days back also, and we discussed that how Nifty has entered into the buy on dips mode. If you look at the weekly time frame charts, on the weekly, last week was after around 8 weeks that Nifty has managed to close above the prior weekly high. That turns the overall bias on the buy side. On the upside, I think we can expect a move towards the level of around 24,400 over near term. But use dips to buy because that will provide a much better risk reward. On the downside, the support is around 24,040 levels. That's where the price were hovering around on 10th of April and also on 8th of April. That's the price action support zone. So use any dips towards that level of 24,040, 24,100 as a buying opportunity. And then we can aim for 24,400 or higher. And in this, Bank Nifty has been the one that has that was dragging earlier, and that's now leading the show on the upside. Especially the private sector banks that we are seeing has started contributing, and that's a positive sign.
Okay, all right. What about specific stocks? If you could just tell us what you're looking at, Ashish, today. We have a lot of the IT stocks which are doing well. The indexes are doing well. We were just discussing that. So anything within that space that you're looking at?
See, IT stocks becomes a little tricky because we can see them doing well for some time, and again, suddenly the entire buzz phases out, and we start seeing some kind of a reversals on that. So it's better to focus on capital market related stocks. And also, I think the outperformance is going to come from every sector in broader market, because Nifty is still down by nearly 8% from the lifetime high levels, whereas Dow Jones and other markets that you would track is hardly down by around 4% from the lifetime high level. So we have a lot of catch up to do. And when that will happen, capital market related stocks like Angel One, BSE, CDSL, these kind of stocks will perform extremely well. So on my radar, the first stock is going to be Angel One. We can clearly see a very strong performance coming from the stock here, and it has been managing to also sustain at a higher levels over the past few days. It has shown a spectacular move with volumes. We can expect a target on the upside around 315, and stop loss can be maintained at 287. And the next stock on the buy side is going to be HDFC AMC. Again, we can start seeing these asset management companies to do well as their portfolio, as the fund size increases and people start putting more money into it, and also the markets do well. So technically, the stock has been bullish since the low of 2,250. We have already seen 7-8 days of rally, but I think the momentum is only going to pick up from here. Expecting a target of 2,800 on the upside. Stop loss can be maintained at 2,585 levels.
Take that point, Ashish. Thank you so much for joining in. So one from the capital market space and the other from the AMC space. So capital market play is what he's betting on. But let's get all the action that we have from the F&O desk today. Mangalam is joining us now. Mangala?
Well, the market continues to do well. So we have the Nifty mid-cap index, as well as the Bank Nifty, all of them doing extremely well. And, the internal data points also suggest that risk on is back on the table. The India VIX is lower. Alongside that, we do have, the market breadth as well, firmly in favor of advances. So the number of stocks which are doing well far outnumber the number of stocks which are declining. And that gap has been consistent through the course of today's trading session so far. The important part, however, is that while, a lot of the sectors are doing well, it's focused back on consumer discretionary. So if you look at, the top gainers right now, we do see them coming in from the likes of Titan. There is trend in the broader markets. We are seeing some traction in, some of the other consumer discretionary names as well. All of them up for you on the screen. Varun Beverages, etc., seeing some fair amount of purchase. But, the Nifty itself has been fulcrumed around the 24,200 mark. A little over that right now is where it's trading. But if you look at the action of the 24,200 put and the 24,200 call, it tells you that for a premium around 200 rupees for both of these options, the street believes that there is strong support at 24,000, which is psychologically important as well. But supply comes in as we move towards 24,450. And that's why, at 24,450, 24,200 call. The premium is around 250 rupees. And that coincides with the 50-day moving average as well, which is closer to the 24,470 mark on the Nifty. And the Nifty Bank as well, 57,317 is an important mark to track on the way up. But a lot of individual stocks on our radar. We are seeing some, fresh, renewed interest in Godfrey Phillips. A lot of long positions being added. Remember, this is the first series of the stock's reintroduction in F&O. And we've been talking about how the capital market plays are doing well. Look at some of the stocks out there. Angel One, Motilal Oswal, we have HDFC AMC, all of them seeing long positions being added out there.
Okay, Mangalam, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, taking us through the latest update in terms of the world of F&O. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. After the break, Manisha Gupta will be joined by with Sriram Krishnan of NSE, and they will be discussing the exchange launching its Brent crude future contract as well. Stay tuned in for that conversation.
Welcome back, and joining us now on the show is Sriram Krishnan from NSE. Mr. Krishnan, hi, thank you so much for joining in, and congratulations as NSE launches the dated Brent crude oil contract. You're going big on commodities space clearly, and what is it that you're looking to achieve with this one?
We've received this feedback from market participants that it would be a good idea to launch a dated Brent crude oil contract, because this is the contract that closely works with the spot market prices. In an environment like the one that we are going through, where every other day there is a moving part which has an impact on spot prices of Brent crude, I think this is a contract which will come in really, really useful for market participants. So to that extent, I think we are fulfilling one important ask of the participants, and we are very happy about that.
And this isn't the first time that you are into energy baskets. You already have WTI contract. You also have natural gas before this as well. What's the plan now that NSE has with energy as a bouquet?
No, we did launch the WTI crude oil contract initially, and then of course the natural gas contract as well. But obviously there are different types of crude oil, and the Brent crude oil is what people follow the most. If you look at Indian participants, they closely track the basket index, which has about 25% representation in the form of Brent crude oil, and the remaining is Dubai or Oman crude oil. So I think this was one product which was important for us to bring into the mix. As far as WTI crude oil is concerned, we've done very well there after the expiry date change a few months back. December, we had about 22 crores of premium turnover on the expiry day. And in April, on the 9th of April, we saw premium turnover close to 400 crores. So we've grown about 1,600%. Market share has gone up to about 35%. So very happy with that. And we'll try and bring constantly some products or the other which are useful for the market.
And gold is another thing that I want to speak to you about. And I remember when we spoke to you last, you told us that the feedback was great. 10-gram gold has clearly picked up. And one of the things that was important was the doorstep delivery. What are you working on in that aspect?
Yeah, the contract is doing well. It's taken off very well. And we are slowly coming towards the expiry day, which is towards the end of this month. That's going to be the first expiry. And that will be a good test for us in terms of how well the product has been received. But already there's a lot of excitement. And the delivery charges are going to be like 99, a nominal delivery charge of 99 rupees. So that's something to think about. If I were a retail investor and you want to buy gold, for example, instead of going to the unauthorized digital platforms that sell digital gold, I should be able to buy the same from NSE, from the NSE platform, which is so trustworthy. And you can buy the futures contract and hold it till the expiry day. In which case you'll only pay 10% margin at the time you buy the contract, and then on the expiry day you pay the balance, and within a few days the gold coin comes to your home with the certificate of purity and authenticity. How better can it get from here?
Oh, well, absolutely. And especially at a time when it is Akshaya Tritiya, doorstep delivery of gold at 99 rupees of 10-gram gold coin is something that people perhaps would want to be looking at. But I also want to talk to you about the electronic gold receipts. That's something that you spoke to us about last time we spoke. And you said you were working on the GST implications of the same. How far has the work been done on that?
Yeah, we will come out with the EGR again within a month or so, and that's another product for which we are very, very excited because it can bring the gold out of Indian households, and people who are just sitting on gold and not really benefiting from the value that they have created over a period of time can actually dematerialize the gold by surrendering it to the vault manager, getting the EGR into their demat account, and then they can trade on the EGR. Suppose somebody wants the gold back someday at some other point in time, they can always surrender the EGR, get the gold back with the certificate of purity and authenticity. So this is going to be a game-changing product again. And more importantly, we have also launched or announced the amendment of an existing contract called Silver Mini, which was for 5 kg silver. We've modified it and we're making it 100-gram silver. So that's another product for which there's a lot of excitement. This is going to be available from early May.
And finally, Mr. Krishnan, with so much happening when it comes to commodities within NSE now, is it safe to assume that this is going to be yet another big asset class that the exchange is building upon?
Most certainly. There's been a lot of feedback that we have received in the past that, if NSE can also be another option for us in commodities, then it can be a true one-stop shop because the margins can be used across asset classes. Till 3:30, somebody can trade equity and equity derivatives, and post that they can trade commodities. Recently, NSE has announced nanosecond response for acknowledgement of messages, order messages. There's no other exchange in the world that has this kind of speed and stability in terms of the platform efficiency. So I think NSE will definitely be looking to bring more and more commodity products and try to help the market participants in every possible way.
Okay, Mr. Krishnan, thank you for joining us with your insights. And thank you, Manisha, for taking us through that conversation. That's about the commodity space. We'll slip into a short break. When we come back, we'll get you more on the markets and stock-specific action in our movers and shakers segment. Stay tuned for that.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Halftime Report on CNBC-TV18. Well, for the Nifty, it's up around 390 odd points. But just want to point out specific stocks within the broader markets. Yatra Online, that stock is up around 14 odd percent at this point. It's gained around 30% this month. Puravankara is building on its gains from Monday. So that stock is up around 9 odd percent at this point. And just look at the way that stock has moved on a month-to-date basis. It's gained around 44% in terms of its market cap. Also, other movers include Angel One from all of the capital market plays. So that one is up around 6 odd percent and gained around 30% this month. Even something like a Grow, which is doing well, up around 8.5 odd percent on the back of a brokerage report and gained around 40% this month. In fact, let's talk a lot more about all of these stocks. This is our Movers and Shakers segment where we track all of the stocks which are on the move on Halftime Report. And first up is Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. The stock is under pressure as the RBI has returned the universal banking application. Ananya joins in with more details on this.
Well, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank is under pressure today. The stock is down around 6% after RBI returned its application to become a universal bank. Now, RBI said it has taken note of Ujjivan's effort to diversify its loan portfolio, but sees that more progress is required when it comes to the secured asset side. Now, the key risk here remains the loan mix. Ujjivan has relatively high share of unsecured loan books, especially in the microfinance segment, while the secured books are only 48%. While comparing to AU Small Finance Bank, where the secured books are around 90%. So the message from RBI is very clear that the financial matrix like NPAs and profitability is not enough. They want structural strength and diversification, especially in the secured asset side. So remember, Jana Small Finance Bank's application was also returned in October 2025. So is a slight delay for Ujjivan, but it's not the end of the road for them. So the bank is also planning and has outlined to increase its secured lending book by 2030. But the RBI's message here remains very clear that the bar for universal bank's license remains very, very high.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Ananya. But let's move on and now talk about CG Power. The stock is buzzing away in trade. We have the whole capital goods space, which is buzzing. But today, CG Power specifically, one Axiro, which is their wholly owned subsidiary, has actually made an investment in Edge Cortex. they've been focusing a lot more on semiconductors. So this is also an investment that comes in over there. The investment mainly is aimed at accelerating, developing and commercializing edge cortex energy efficient AI processing solutions. Do not forget, CG Power has already made that big investment for an OSAT facility in Sanand, Gujarat as well. So that's the big investment that they're making on the semiconductor side. 7,600 crores over a period of 5 years is what they're going to be investing. So that focus on semiconductor, that continues, and that is the big play that will come in for CG Power going forward as well. But as of now, surely building their focus and widening their focus there on the semiconductor space and value chain as well.
Okay, capital goods has been in focus, and today it is CG Power on the back of this news update. Let's talk about LG Electronics. That is also in focus. The IPO shareholder lock-in ends today. Upasana, tell us more. What does it mean? And some more data as well.
Well, certainly the stock certainly remains in focus today as the shareholder lock-in period comes to an end today. As many as 441 million shares to the likes of about 65% of the outstanding equity free up for trade as the lock-in period ends. Now, if we look at the December 2025 shareholding pattern, the promoter holding stands at 85% for the company. Now, Nuvama has also initiated a buy rating today with a target price of 1870 per share. It has given overall a positive note stating that the company maintains its strong leadership across categories. The financial metrics also remains quite robust for the company, and it sees a favorable long-term growth outlook for the company going forward. Now, the company is a leader across the key segment, be it in the likes of washing machine, RAC, TV, refrigerators. And going forward, it believes that the company's EBITDA margins are likely to expand by nearly about 220 basis points over FY26 to FY29. The brokerage expects the company to deliver revenue CAGR of 12%, EBITDA 19%, and even PAT 19% CAGR over FY26 to FY29. And it believes that the company enjoys the best ROCE profile amongst its peer, which is mainly led by the company's superior margin profile, working capital, and even asset turn ratio. It has also flagged off one of the key important risks for the company. Going forward, it could be the unfavorable summer season and even any changes in the company's export strategy is what they have highlighted as well. So all in all, the stock certainly remains in focus today on the back of this.
Thank you so much for that, Upasana. There were some of those stocks that were moving around, but in the last 1 hour, what's picked up pace is also Nugent Software. Look at the stock buzzing away. The last 1 hour, 2.5% gains. DB Realty, again, that's the one that's also seen a bit of an up move. Jubilant Food, Alembic Pharma in the last hour, where we're seeing a bit of an up move right now. 24,200 for the Nifty. IT continues to do well. Banks continue to do well in the trading session as well. And broader end of the market overall is managing to do better than the benchmark indices. But yes, on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. After the break, we'll get more stock-specific action as well and more on the markets. Stay tuned.
Powered by Binance.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Halftime Report. We'll, of course, be talking about cryptos in just a bit. But before that, we have to take a look at some of these stocks which are buzzing around in trade. Deepak Fertilizers is up 8.5%. We just spoke about how WPI inflation has been higher. And Deepak Fertilizer is one of the manufacturers of ammonia. And it is putting out a big plant in that particular segment. So all the commodity plays, the commodity chemical plays will continue to do well if commodity prices keep going higher. We've seen that with phenol. We've seen that with other chemicals as well. But it's a good time to talk about the Crypto Corner segment where we track all the latest developments in the space. Manisha is joining us with more. Manisha, what are you tracking today?
Well, this is yet another asset class which seems to be doing quite well today with risk on, and we have seen all the cryptos, altcoins actually do quite well. There you have Bitcoin, and it's trading at around $75,000 on the higher side in the international markets. When you look at the overall prices, last 24 hours have been quite exciting. 5% of gains coming in for Bitcoin, and $25 billion of a trading volume is what we've seen onto this one. And then you have Ethereum, which also has seen 9% gains overnight with nearly $11 billion of a volume coming in for this one as well. The ETP inflows in the last 1 week has been quite strong at around 1.1 billion. And also when you look at the short Bitcoin hedging products inflows, that stands at a total $20 million as well. And there's plenty happening in the world of crypto as well when you look at mergers, acquisitions, and the buyings as well. The top of the list is Deutsche Börse, which has invested nearly $200 million in Payword Kraken. Actually, the Federal Reserve officially has approved Kraken also as the first digital asset bank with the direct access to the United States payment systems therein. So very, very positive news coming in for that one. And then you have Strategy as a company, which has bought 13,927 Bitcoins for $1 billion in the last week. They have been bought at an average price of 71,900. And with this, Strategy's total holdings for Bitcoin now stand at a very tall 7,80,897 Bitcoins. It is what Strategy holds by itself. In the meanwhile, you also have Goldman Sachs, which has filed for a Bitcoin income ETF push. And that also seems to be very positive working in for the crypto markets at this point.
Okay, all right, Manisha, thanks very much for that. So that's what's taking place in the cryptocurrency space. With that, it's also a wrap on a halftime report. Business Lunch will take all of the action forward. Thanks for watching.
CNBC-TV18 presents